this one.
So I have a brief presentation, but I also see the applicant is on here, so I can share sort of the side by side, and then maybe the applicant can speak to some of the changes.
Sure.
Hold on. So 26 Magnolia Ave was approved for with a special permit to construct a new single-family home, which exceeded the floor area ratio and also included retaining walls exceeding 4 feet in height within a setback. And you can see that approved plan on the left-hand side of my screen and where my cursor is. The applicant filed for a consistency ruling to construct an in-ground pool at the rear of the site, as well as a detached accessory structure, which looks like it's a shed. So the commissioner is looking for input from the committee on this. However, I did notice the applicant uploaded a new site plan today, which is the site plan on the right-hand side of my screen. So if there are any changes, I think the committee should be aware of. Maybe the applicant can speak to them. At first glance, it looks pretty similar to the originally submitted plan. But yeah, so they are seeking, the commissioner is seeking input on whether this is consistent with the special permit. So that is all we have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, if this was a by right project, and somebody went to put this pool in, this pool is completely within the setbacks and would not have to come in front of us, but it is in front of us now because we did give them a special permit. Just to give you some background, Councilor Laredo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is my ward, obviously. Have you talked to the immediate neighbors, Mr. Aroni?
Yes, I spoke with Brian Flannery, who's the rear neighbor, and I've spoken with my other rear set of neighbors. They've been informed. I asked them if there's anything that I could do, if there was anything, that might not be pleasing to them, but I've been working pretty closely with them throughout this project, and I'd like to think we have a good relationship. I presented to them the drainage calcs, the phosphorus calcs, the 3D rendering for the proposed pool. I said, I want to leave here in good spirits. I want to make sure that they're happy. They said that, they would join here tonight. I believe if there was an issue of any concern, they know they have 24/7 access to me, and I'm more than willing, to do whatever it takes so that they feel comfortable in the neighborhood in which they've lived in for so long. So
you notified. I just want to be clear. You notified the rear neighbors, the one that directly abuts the pool, and did you notify the neighbors on both sides?
So Mr. Graham and Aisha, I didn't notify them, sir, Mr. Laredo, because their home is all the way up front. This pool is in the furthest most part of the yard. And what I've done to comply with the Grahams, Mr. Graham and his daughter Aisha, we came up with the planting schedule. They selected the plants. I put everything that they wanted and selected. They were made aware that that was going in, but if I had notified them today, the answer is no, I have not.
Okay, what about Ms. Benjamin, your other neighbor?
Yep, Penny Benjamin has been made aware of all the changes.
Okay.
I'm not sure she decided to join. I know she's not feeling well, but I have constant communication with Penny.
Okay. All right. I'll leave it at that. I'll let my colleagues go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I remember this property. We took a walk out there. Councilor Markowitz.
Yes, sir, you did.
Thank you,
Yes.
Chair. Yeah, just as Mr. Aroni was talking, I said, I remember that one too.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I just have, I guess this is a question. I don't know if this is for Ms. Wewell or Mr. or Attorney Temple. If this project was just done the way, without the pool, okay, so it was done the way it was approved, and they just then subsequently decided to put in a pool, was there any reason they would have to come in for a special permit? Or would they just be able to do that by right?
That's what's going,
So,
sorry, hold on. That's what's
Yeah, so
going on
it's-
right now. Right now, because we gave them this special permit, even though this, is by right, if there was no special permit and they built a
Okay,
house.
Chair, let me interrupt us. Make
Yeah.
sure I understand, because you may be answering the question. I just want to make sure I'm asking the right question. So this thing actually is already built, except for the pool.
It should-
Correct, sir.
What I'm
Yes.
trying to do, Chair,
Yes.
what I'm trying to do is say, if this was a one-off pool installation, would they need a special permit?
it's an interesting question, Counselor. It is somewhat of a gray area because there is an approved site plan for this property. That doesn't necessarily mean that every by right project now requires a special permit, but
Right.
because this would significantly change the site plan, I think the Commissioner of Inspectional Services erred towards sending this back here. But I'm not sure in all instances it's necessary to do that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why I asked the question, Chair. I'm just trying to say, would we care if this was just, okay, a year later it said, hey, it's hot out, it's getting hotter, let's put a pool in. Like, okay, fine, get whatever permits you have to get for a pool and put it in. So I'm just doing that to, help understand the consistency of it.
I had
But,
the same,
think
I had
got
the
my
same
answer.
questions this morning when we went over at Council Markowitz, exactly.
And you as a pool owner totally get it too, I know that.
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. I understand that perhaps if this was all a new by right project, we would approve it. But having been through the special permit and the neighborhood meetings and the site visits, I am a little dismayed that Penny Benjamin and Walter and Aisha Graham have not been part of this because this is different for them. As I remember this site, it slopes down quite a bit in that rear where the now in-ground pool is going to go. And there's a view over the Graham's property. I just feel like it does impact everything. I appreciate Councilor Laredo asking that question, as he often does, and as we always should, like, have you involved the neighbors in this? And at the time of the special permit, there was a lot of interest and concern, not just for them, but for other people on the other side of this too. So I'm a little hesitant to go along with this, honestly.
Okay. Mr. Aroni, do you live in this home?
No, sir. So I have pre-sold this home to an amazing family coming here from Washington, D.C. We're closing on this property November 12th. We've been working side by side with them for over 4 months now. They have 2 children that go to the Fessenden School. The pool was an afterthought. As soon as we were aware that this no longer was a dream, but actually something that they wanted to come to fruition, we jumped into full speed. We got the drainage calcs done. We got the phosphorus calcs. We met all the recommendations, all the requirements. I just got approved the stormwater site plan through engineering today. I walked the site with Al Gifford, who is our inspector. If this was not a special permit, this would be a by right project. We meet all the setbacks. We meet the lot coverage requirements. We meet the open space requirements. The reason why I'm here is obviously because it's special permit for the reasons that you all know about and that you helped me obtain. I would have been done with this project probably a month ago. With that being said, this is why I'm here. I have notified the folks that would be impacted by this. They wouldn't even be able to see it or by sight, but once in a while you will hear a child, you will hear the splash of a water or something like that. But I've worked very close with all the neighbors. They've all picked their plant selections. I have followed everything to a T, all their requirements and recommendations. I'm simply here as a formality. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know. I felt that to make sure that everyone was happy here.
Yeah. For me, the combination of this being by right, if it was not part of the special permit, it fits within everything. meeting you out there and meeting the neighbors who all said that you were working wonderfully with them. I would think that if Penny or anybody else asked of you for something, I'm sure you would do some additional screening. I have no problem with this. Councillor Laredo?
May I speak? This is John Kreatsoulos with my wife, Katerina Kreatsoulos. I cannot figure out how to raise my hand to...
Go ahead, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
So we are the abutters on the rear side of the Magnolia Road building. And our only concern is that when the plans were approved, there was a holding tank in the lower part of the backyard that was supposedly to contain water, rainwater. This now will be taken out and will be replaced with a paving that is not as
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Mr. Aroni mentioned just now that he got his engineering approved, which would be new engineering for the water, given that location's displacement. Mr. Aroni, can you speak to that?
I can. Thank you, sir. John, there are new stormwater requirements now in Newton that are extremely thorough, extremely strict. We need phosphorus counts. We need stormwater drainage plans. The holding tank was not even required in the prior site plan. I did that as a courtesy for Mr. Flannery. But what's going to happen now, once the construction of the pool goes underway, the subbed of the pool can actually control and mitigate water twice as much as that 1,500 gallon container. Russell, I work closely with Russell Arpino. I went through the process. I met all the requirements. I have the permit in hand, and I'm more than happy to walk over the hard copies of everything I have to you tomorrow morning. Sit down, have a cup of coffee, and walk you through it, because this stuff is very in-depth and it is difficult to understand. But the long story short, I went through the process. It was approved. I met all the requirements. So in regards to that, you have nothing to worry about.
As long as the council is satisfied with that, I do not have the special knowledge to pass judgment.
I will give you the surety, sir, that our standards exceed the state standards for retaining water, and the engineering department would not give the go-ahead for this pool unless the new engineering met what you were satisfied with before. Councillor Laredo?
Thank you.
So I appreciate, first of all, the comment of the rear abutter, and I think Chair Lipoff, you obviously explained it correctly. I'm okay with this in large part because I think if this was a by right project, it would be allowed, period. And as Mr. Attorney Temple said, it is somewhat of a gray area if they came in, 2 years from now when we're trying to do this. I am a little concerned, Mr. Aroni, that you didn't seem to talk to the other two neighbors specifically about this. I personally will expect that you will reach out to Ms. Benjamin and the other neighbors, let them know what you're doing, and tell them if they have any issues, they should call me as the ward counselor here. I would appreciate that.
Sir, I'll one-up it. I'll get everything even in writing from you, from them to you.
That
okay?
would make me feel much better. I just want some assurance that, look, I think there's a reasonable ask, okay? I want to be really clear, but this was a difficult special permit for us. We really tried to we went on a site visit. We spent a lot of time talking to the immediate neighbors here because of that. And as Councilor Kelly said, I just want some assurance that there's something here that's not of concern. And if it was, it might not change my mind. I want to be very clear about it. But, talking to the neighbors is always good. Thank you.
I'll,
Appreciate it.
I'll get that to you. And just so we've worked with each other on several projects. I'm in constant contact with both families on either side. I'm on site multiple times. They see me every single day.
I have no doubt about that, Mr. Aroni, and I appreciate that. It's just, we're trying to, one of the things we try to do here is make sure we are responsive to our constituents and make sure that they have an opportunity to be heard, particularly because they don't get notice of these kind of things.
Okay,
So,
great.
fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
So let's take this is not a hard, fast vote here. It is a recommendation to the chair, to the head of ISD for a consistency. So everybody who thinks this is consistent on the councils, on the committee, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. No. Councillor Kelly is a no. Abstentions? Okay, so that consists.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, one abstention, one no, and the rest are yeses. You can pass that along to the head of ISD. Thank you very much. Our next item, 327-23, Andrea Roman, request for an extension of time to exercise special permit 414-22 at 35 Bracebridge Road. Is the petitioner here?
Yes.
Okay, you want an extension? Yes, okay. You
Yes,
really don't?
possible.
Sure, don't even have to say much, you're just asking for an extension of time. Anybody on the committee have any questions?
No questions, but I'm happy to move it when ready. Or make a suggestion that we go ahead and support this.
Sure, this is not a public hearing. No, so we are just going to vote on the extension. Please call the roll.
Councillor Bowman,
Aye.
Councillor Downs,
Aye.
Councillor Greenberg, Councillor Kelly,
Aye.
Councillor Laredo,
Aye.
Councillor Lipoff,
Aye.
Councillor Lucas,
Aye.
Councillor Markowitz.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is 328-23, Green RE West Newton LLC, request to amend special permit 67-20 to allow medical marijuana treatment center at 1089 Washington Street. We'll go to planning first.
Yes, let me just share my screen.
Mhm.
Okay, this is petition number 328-23 for the property located at 1089 Washington Street. The building is currently the site of a marijuana retail establishment, Ascend, that was approved by special permit number 67-80. And just a bit of background on this special permit. Ascend was granted a special permit in 2020, and it opened in December 2021. The petitioner is now seeking to locate a marijuana treatment center, or MTC, for the sale of medical marijuana. The City of Newton allows MTCs by special permit only if they meet minimum criteria. The petitioner requires an amendment to special permit 67-20 to allow the MTC use where a special permit has already been issued for the marijuana retail use. So the criteria to consider when reviewing this request is the site is an appropriate location for the medical marijuana treatment center, MTC. The proposed MTC center as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. There will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. Access to the site is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. And then in addition to the standard criteria, there are a number of other criteria that need to be met as part of the special permit for marijuana establishments and marijuana treatment centers in particular. The lot should be convenient, safe, and provide secure access and egress for clients and employees. Loading, refuse, and service areas are designed to be secure and shielded from abutting uses. The MTC is designed to minimize any adverse impacts on abutters. The MTC is not located within a 500-foot radius of public, private K-12 schools. Traffic will not create a significant adverse impact on nearby uses. The site is designed to be compatible with buildings in the area. The site and building is accessible to persons with disabilities. The lot is accessible to regional roadways and public transportation. The lot is readily monitored by law enforcement, and the hours of operation will have no significant adverse impact on nearby uses. So this is an aerial map showing the location of the property. The property and surrounding properties on Washington Street are zoned business use 2. The property also borders multi-residence 1 on Cross Street and Wiswall Street. The immediate neighborhood is comprised of a mix of commercial businesses along Washington Street and multi-family and single-family residences in the interior blocks of Cross Street and Wiswall Street to the north. To the south of the site is Interstate 90 and a street buffer zone. The site is directly accessible by MBTA bus on Washington Street and is in walking distance of West Newton and Newtonville commuter rail stations. So planning conducted a recent site visit, and I'm just presenting some of the photos. Planning looked at the landscaping there and noticed that there was some landscaping that was missing from the approved site plan. So some of the landscaping have since died since planting. So planning has made the petitioner aware of the lack of landscaping per the approved plan and recommends the petitioner review the approved landscape plan and ensure that the installed landscaping meets the approved special permit plans. And so you can see the site has the bike rack installed. There is a rain garden. There is some screening along the parking area of the abutters on Cross Street. And some additional information on the special permit. As part of the original special permit, there were a number of site improvements, such as a new pedestrian crosswalk, fencing, bike shelter, and the rain garden. There are no exterior physical or major operational changes proposed as part of this amendment. There's going to be no changes in operations. And as I mentioned, planning did note the concern with the landscaping, but no other major concerns with this additional use at the existing marijuana retail establishment. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here that wants to state anything further that wasn't touched upon?
Yeah, hello, Mr. Chairman. This is Mike Ross, attorney for the petitioner.
Good evening, Mr. Ross.
Good evening. Good to see you and good to see your colleagues. It's been a minute.
It has.
I think you did a great job there, but I did prepare something that might help supplement the record and maybe quickly bring it up.
Sure, just don't be redundant.
Okay, I'll be very quick on this.
Go ahead.
Sure. Now, it does dovetail with some of the comments Alyssa made. We don't have to go into the whole spiel, but Ascend is a multi-state operator, but they're originally based here in Massachusetts. This is one of their 3 stores in Massachusetts. So there is a need-based criteria in Newton's ordinances. And just generally speaking, when it comes to medical patients, we just wanted to point out that there are, of the 4 marijuana retailers that are open in Newton, only one of them is serving medical patients. And there's, generally, the state has seen in 2021 reported 100,000 certified medical patients in Massachusetts. And that's a rate that continues to grow. And so there's different rules of thumb of how you count demand, but generally speaking, you can say 2% of the population is expected to become patients. It's a very rough number, but it's actually works out pretty close. And so by that matrix, there is demand that in the city of Newton size of 85,000, there are enough patients that they are not currently being served numerically, let's say, with just a single dispensary. There are some other dispensaries in Needham and Watertown. Medical has different, you can only be a medical patient to get medical product. You have to you have to qualify and renew yearly. It's generally, you have to have some prevailing underlying illness or issue. We can talk more about that if you'd like. There are no changes whatsoever to the facility. We don't need more employees. We don't need more parking spaces. We don't need more registers. We are required to convert one of our point of sale machines to be the medical use point of sales. And we are required to have an area in the store where if someone were to want a consultation, they could have one seated, relatively private. Doesn't have to be a separate room. It can just be an area that's kind of off to the side, called a medical consult area. As you can see on this floor plan, we would put it just onto the side of the room. But there are no physical changes to the facility or operational changes to the facility. I did want to just show you, we're doing a lot, and we've been open for a while in your city. We've been contributing to various proposals in your city. I did hear from Alyssa about the plantings. I went back and actually looked at the plantings and compared them to, that's the first thing that goes through your head on something like this is, did we do what we said we were going to do? Thankfully, I can verify to you that we did. However, there are some dead plants. So I can verify to you that we have since contracted with someone with a landscape arborist, landscape company, a five-figure contract to go out there and make immediate repairs, replacements to these trees that need it. What you see here on the right are some images that show September 2022 snapshot. So after we had been open for a while, and you can see that things were alive and they were planted where they should have been. But we need to fix those that are dead. So we're going to do that. I'll pause there. I'm sure there's a bunch of questions. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Ross, just for centering the committee and those listening, my understanding here, what you're adding, is people with medical marijuana cards coming in and buying the same product as everybody else at a deep discount because it's a medical product and they do not have to pay 20-some-odd% in taxes. The foot traffic is not going to increase at a point where you would even notice it. There may be a consultation in a side office, but it's just the type of marijuana being sold. That's what it is. You have to come in for a special permit for that. And what you're going to hear tonight is some things that have been going on with parking on the side street and with trash and some other problems. And because you come in for the special permit, you're going to hear about these issues, which I hope you can address. Councillor Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Wright and I are on the Washington Street Working Group. As you may know, there's a pilot project to redesign Washington Street between Lowell Ave and Chestnut Street. And at one of those, at a recent meeting a couple of weeks back, Councilor Wright said that something about the parking lot being constantly full. And I was surprised about that. I didn't think it made any sense. And so on a trip back from West Newton last week, I actually parked across the street on Washington Street and watched what was going on. And in fact, the parking lot was pretty full. The back row of spaces was totally full, totally taken up. And there were a few empty spaces, and I saw people coming and going from the front, the spaces closest to Washington Street. And I was wondering, do you have the number of employees working there as expected when you originally applied for your special permit? Are there more? I was just surprised that the parking lot was as full as it is. Could you explain that?
Sure. So we did do a call, and I'm remiss to tell you that Matt McKenna, our public affairs manager, is also on the call with me. Prior to getting on this call, we met with the general manager to go over everything. Their number is capped at 15. It's capped by the special permit, and it's actually it's in operationally. It is 15 employees at any one time. They are and they're often below that as well, but they're not exceeding the 15 employee number. What is happening, Counselor, is that they are parking. Some of the employees are parking in the parking lot because they have actually a pretty good sized parking lot. We talked today about messaging their employees because, you know, the spaces are there, but we did talk about incorporating transit demand management protocols, reminding their employees that there are other ways to get to the office, so to speak. And so even just tonight, the general manager did a message to his employees to say, come see me if you want to work through, you know, other ways to get in, you know, whether that's transit, you know, where we would subsidize your transit pass, carpooling, and, you know, we can get creative and we can incent you and we can work with you. So we used this opportunity, and it's like what the chair just said. Sometimes, you know, I don't see you folks for a couple of years, and then we come back and we go through and we look through everything, and we want to make sure that everyone working in this facility is aware of everything that happens in these meetings. And that should always happen, and that should be automatic. But sometimes not everything gets read or digested by everyone in the building. So this was our opportunity to do that. So it's employees parking, Counselor, and we are now using this opportunity to remind people that there are other ways to get to the office.
Okay, Mr. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, President.
My question would be, so given, I don't know what your new traffic of customers will be, but given, you know, the number of taken up on a hourly basis, are you going to have enough space in your parking lot, or do you think you'd be able to affect some real change with your employees? What do you think is the situation with parking there?
We do think that there's capacity in the parking lot. We never have a completely full parking lot. There's always some spaces that are available. But we also think that there's plenty of parking on Washington Street. I mean, all day long. And one of the things that the special permit did allow is for employees to park on Washington Street. And I think what we're wanting to do now, and there was some things that happened with the neighbors, Madam President, that we've learned about. I heard about it today. But again, this is good because in some ways we didn't know about this. We did not know about some of the concerns of the neighbors. We had not heard from some of these neighbors. This gives us a chance to fix that. So by putting those employees who are parking in our parking lot onto Washington Street, or at least a good chunk of them, it's really going to alleviate the problem of having a full parking lot. We're not ever totally full, but sometimes when there's only one or two spaces, it looks like you're totally full. So putting them out on Washington Street, that's just an easy fix. Carpooling and some of the other things we talked about would be great, but a lot of people are, you know, they have their car, so they want it. So we're going to move our employees out onto Washington Street as best we can.
Mr.
We're gonna be
Ross,
messaging.
Mr. Ross, another issue that we can bring up because it's convenient to do now. There is talk of the delivery company people parking on the side street on Wiswall. And that is not within the line. I don't think it is within the special permit. That is something that the neighborhood is having a problem with. And I think that you guys need to talk to the delivery people who are idling, sitting there, that need to, if they're going to do that, they're going to do it on Washington Street, not on that narrow side street. Can you promise us that you will take care of that?
I can. And I want to say that before we got on today, we had a conversation about this. And we are also very concerned about what's happening with these delivery drivers. The good news is, to the extent there's any good news here, is that it's one company. This one company, it's a social equity company called Trevit, is the only company that we're contracted with. So to make a change, it's easy because we can go, we don't have to alert 5 or 10 different companies.
That's good. That's good.
So that's good. But we're also very concerned because one of the reports that came back from a neighbor is that they were smoking cannabis in their car. And that's not only is that not good, that's not allowed. That is an offense that can shut down a company like that. It's my understanding that they knew exactly who that employee was and that employee has been terminated. These are not employees of Ascend. These are this is the contractor of Ascend.
Right.
We have the right to rescind this contract. We have the right to, I have to read the contract. There has to be cause, but we have the right to recontract with other agencies that won't get this into trouble. So the immediate policy for our for these deliveries company, for Trevit, really is the only delivery company, is that they cannot park on any side street. It's in our special permit, Mr. Chair, you're correct. They can park on Washington Street. They can park in our parking lot, and that's the only place they should be parking.
You need to re-up that and emphasize that because it's not happening, okay? I'm going to go to the public now on this.
May I just finish up?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Would you be able to, through the planning department, to Mr. Ostroff, who's the department of the transportation planner for this planning department, would you be able to get some word to them about how many parking spaces you think you will need on Washington Street as this planning for the new, this new plan between Lowell and Chestnut goes in? We'd like to know, because you're not using them now, so we'd like to know how many you would need as this moves forward. That would be very helpful information. Thank you.
Thank you, President Albright.
Could I speak as an abutter?
Can you speak as an abutter? In 1 second, sir. Go ahead.
Okay.
State your name and address.
My name's Harold Coxall. I own the building to the
No,
right.
no, not you. Not you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please mute. Please mute. Go ahead.
So yeah, that's my father. So we own the
Do
building.
you want your father to go first?
Go ahead, sure.
Okay, father Trump's son. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Yep.
You can sit there as an attorney and you can make it sound rosy as can be. We live it every day, what goes on at that building. I bought that building 2 years ago, and it is a terrible place to be. Our parking lot is full of people urinating at night. Those vehicles you're talking about are parked on the street, blocking our driveway. We had to call the police today. We had an incident with them. You can show all the flowers you want. That building affects everything around it, and it is a nightmare to be next to. And I wish I didn't buy the building, but unfortunately I own it. I'm stuck there. But I can tell you one thing. We call the police all the time. We call the town all the time. We complain all the time. Nothing is done about it. In that parking lot, if you ask where all the people are parking, they're in my parking lot. If you ask where they're using the men's and ladies' room, it's in the back of my building. Every single night on the cameras, I can see it. We constantly complain, and this is what we deal with.
Thank you for the information. That's disturbing. Do you have anything else to add to your father's comments?
No, just to add on to it, how it's incredible the amount of people
Can you just turn that on and name and address, please?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, no, just to go off of that, it's just incredible the amount of people that trespass, park, urinate behind our building. I'm there all weekend working all the time. It happens a ton of times on the weekend. It's employees, it's customers. It's to the point where at 5 o'clock we'll come out and there's 3 people walking with Ascend bags, urinating when we have an office full of people there, or trying to pull out of our parking lot to go home and there's delivery people blocking it and we ask them to move and they start yelling at us as if they own the entire area. It's a nightmare being there. It's horrible. And I really wish that there would be a police detail there, just like a lot of other dispensaries. I think that would solve some of the issues. But yeah, that's it.
You're the building to the right?
Yeah, we're the white building to the right, the only building that's really like up with them.
Okay. Well, thank you for your testimony. Jacqueline Schrader?
Good evening, councilors. Jackie Schrader, 17 Wiswall Street. For the Ascend, I have some specific details that I could provide for them to investigate. Last Thursday from 11:23 a.m. until 2:13 p.m., there was a black car idling, parked on the wrong side of the road, partially to the edge of our driveway with a Massachusetts tag 3YFC79. This is one example where I have it from our Ring recorder. So I have the video of when they arrived, they stayed, reclined in the chair, played on their phone for 3 hours and then left. But I wanted to provide this tag number for them to possibly investigate to see if this is part of the delivery. And they don't seem to care where they park. And we're concerned that some of our cars are going to end up damaged.
Some customers.
And so this is one example of, we don't know if they're a customer or if they're a delivery person, but wanted to add this information and details for you guys to help investigate. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. Sir, go ahead. State your name and address.
My name is Robert DeSantis, 46 Parsons Street, right around the corner.
Is that on?
Yeah, 46 Parsons Street, right around the corner. And since that, well, let me tell you a little bit about us. We've been there, at least I've been in that neighborhood for 56 years. My family's been there for quite a time longer and go back to the 1930s. But since this building has been open, which we had no say as neighbors or abutters, I don't think Newton really cares about neighbors or abutters. I've had to change the way I put my trash out. I have to put the bins on the street the night before, because if I don't, my trash will not get picked up. I'm consistently calling the city of Newton saying my trash wasn't picked up, and it doesn't get picked up because there are cars parked in front of it all the time. So I had to come around that, and in the winter, I have to put the bins on the street itself because there are cars consistently parked in front of my house. The traffic has changed, is increased drastically. And then, I hear the city of Newton is gonna build something at the Armory. I don't know if anyone knows what it is, but considering no income housing, well, that's gonna increase traffic, and it's increasing the type of people that are gonna be taking your product in our neighborhood and walking around our neighborhood, because they'll walk there, they'll take it, they'll walk around our neighborhood. These are people that possibly have no income because they need medical stuff. In the city of Newton, 3 of our close family friends were butchered a few months ago. And that was deemed to be our fault, that they were butchered. For people that probably needed medical help or whatever it is, or is there studies of what these people are self-treating when they take, descend into marijuana and then walk around the neighborhood? You got to think about the future and what's going to happen to the sites next to that. It's been difficult. I have children. There are children on that street. And now we're going to increase the amount of marijuana coming out of it, and the type of usage, yeah, the landscaping looks great,
Okay.
but not, my property doesn't, it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me when I can't take my trash out as I should. It doesn't help me when the traffic's flying by there as a cut through and my son, you know, has to double. Look, he was hit on the street next door, straight on by a car. No one does traffic studies. If you suggest to do it, I'm all set.
I hear you. Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, this is, we're gonna, we done with the neighborhood? Everybody done? Okay.
I still have a comment.
Who is that?
My name is Tina Mingase, and I work at 1081 Washington Street, which is the abutters that previously spoke.
Go ahead.
So we moved in a couple years ago, and it has been constant issues ever since. We've had to install extra security systems because now we have to keep our building locked at all times because people would just try to enter coming in the building thinking that we're the dispensary when the dispensary is next door. I'm constantly dealing with our employees not being able to park in our own parking lot on our private property because people drive in there to go to the dispensary. And when you say something to them, sometimes they don't care. I've personally went to go walk out of our office a few weeks ago, and there was 3 or 4 gentlemen right outside my back door. Now, mind you, there's only 2 women in the office at this time, and one of them has his hands in his pants. The disturbance of what goes on with there being no security provided by Ascend, I do think we should press the issue that there should be some more security. And there definitely is a major parking issue.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Anybody else from the public?
Yes, I have a couple of comments.
Go ahead. Name and address.
Tim Teckler, 40 Cross Street. I live on the corner of Cross and Wiswall. I want to reiterate the points that some neighbors have made. We've definitely seen an increase in the number of cars that park on Wiswall, sometimes Cross. Cross Street's very narrow. The 3 situations that as neighbors we tried to bring to the councilor's attention today are the delivery people and customers parking on Wiswall Street and Cross. Ascend definitely has a trash problem. Their customers leave crumpled up bags on our lawns or on the sidewalk, sometimes with their receipts and phone numbers in them. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. The landscaping, I think, has been completely covered here, and I appreciate your attention to that. If you get a chance to look at the photos that were sent to you this afternoon, that is kind of typical of these drivers, delivery drivers for Ascend. They'll park over on Cross or Wiswall, and I think wait in a kind of a queue until they're called. They'll walk around and join a car that sits in front of Ascend on the sidewalk. We were told during the original special permit hearing that all product was going to be transferred within their gated fence to the right of the building as you stand and look at it. I can tell you for a fact, and you can look at those photos, product is brought out onto the sidewalk in cars waiting in Ascend's neighbor's curb cut in their driveway. The building next door, I feel their pain. I get it, because that's where delivery drivers queue up. I appreciate the ability to bring these points to you this evening. There are several questions I have, but about the specific request, the amendment. Does the approval of a medical marijuana treatment allow them to consume the product on site?
No.
Who said no?
I said no. Rick Lipoff, no, they are not allowed to consume it on site.
And so, I have one quick question for Attorney Ross. Under the special permit criteria that you submitted in your packet, definitions, B, page 4. It says here that it references administering marijuana products containing cannabis or marijuana or related supplies. That sounds to me like you can actually consume on site.
No, it's against state law. You cannot consume it on site or outside the building. You cannot. Administer means to dispense, really. It means to sell, to fill a prescription per se. It's really not a prescription, though. You have a medical marijuana card. It allows you to get a medical strain of marijuana and save 20 some odd % on taxes because it's a prescription and not recreational.
So this will not open a door to a lounge or
absolutely not.
Use.
Absolutely not.
The delivery drivers and the trash are our main problems over on this side of the block on Wiswall, and I appreciate anything that we can do to include language in the special permit that mitigates it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Clearly the problems are trash, parking on the wrong street where they shouldn't be, the way that the delivery company is acting, public urination and hanging out on the building to the right. You know, I came into this meeting because I know enough about this after we have approved 8 of these to know that medical marijuana isn't going to change the way that this business is working. It's just another way of purchasing it. However, it has allowed us to take a check-in as to how things are going, and I'm pretty disturbed at that. We'll take it into the council now. Councilor Laredo.
So I'm going to be pretty quick with this. I'm going to recommend that we deny this petition. And I'm going to really strongly suggest that this petitioner withdraw the petition for now, work with the neighbors over the next several months to make sure that every one of these concerns is addressed, and then come back, file a new petition, and we'll consider it then. But I'm not prepared to grant a petition to a petitioner who's causing these problems for the immediate abutters. It's not your fault, Mr. Ross. I get it. You're the attorney for these folks. But there is no way that we should just be taking your word, no matter how well intended. Don't worry, we're going to take care of it. This is our one opportunity to deal with it. So my motion is to deny.
Councilor Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with what Councilor Laredo said about the petitioner here, and they have many issues to resolve. As what Councilor Laredo said, deny. I was actually leaning towards hold. I know we're at the end of our term, so maybe hold is not appropriate, but I am not in a position to vote on this petition tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. Mr. Ross, I'm actually really glad to see you here tonight because you're the one familiar person that is still connected to this establishment. As you know, I was part of this original special permit petition, and I went by the store today to talk to the on-site managers, and I'm actually very curious to know who is the general manager of this store. You referred to that person a couple of times. I didn't know that there was an on-site general manager. I spoke with two on-site managers, both of whom assured me that there were no plans to be selling medical marijuana or cannabis at this location. So there is a miscommunication between corporate and local that needs to be fixed while you guys take the time to fix some of these other problems about compliance with past conditions. Can you tell us who is the present general manager, Mr. Ross, that you referred to a few times tonight?
Absolutely, yeah. So I was speaking with him tonight. His name's Aaron Bafford. But, you know, above Aaron is Matt McKenna, who's here with, who I'd like to bring in to provide an introduction, because I don't think myself or Matt are happy to hear any of what we're hearing. Yeah. And a lot of it was new information for us that we've just scrambled from the email that we received from the neighbor, and now that we're hearing in testimony. So maybe, Matt, this would be a good time to have you come in and just introduce yourself and maybe talk about what you and I were talking about, maybe forming a working group. Because I'd say this, Counselor, we've had success in the past bringing neighbors together and having a dialogue and having a conversation. That's not happening. There is no dialogue. There is no conversation. It shouldn't take a city council hearing or an amendment to the special permit process to kickstart that. I don't know why that hasn't happened. I don't know. The neighbors say that they've been calling someone. There's not a two-way dialogue. I would love to launch that if that's, you know, something that you would want us to do.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about that. I'm sure we all would, and I think we'd probably like to hear from Matt, but I would like to just continue with some of my questions.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Before that we do that.
Yeah.
There are, as have been discussed, past compliance issues around planting and litter, and which we did not have at the time, this whole third-party delivery service issue, which has clearly come about as a current problem. Back then, there was a promise of having, let me see if I can see the word of it, the name of it, some kind of like a quality of life hotline for the neighbors to call, which was assured to the city council, and to the neighbors at the time the special permit was granted. From what I understand from the neighbors, that doesn't exist. There isn't that. So when you talk about trying to get back on top of this and maybe do a working group, please consider that quality of life hotline for the neighbors. I think part of why you have not heard from them is there is nothing like that. And the management has shifted drastically. The two people I've spoken to in the past are no longer there. And I understand it's an industry with a lot of staff turnover. They told me that as much today inside. The current staff had no idea about the previous conditions, the responsibility around the litter, the ability to not let people come back if they had been littering, the maintenance of the plants. They didn't know any of this. So there's an in-house coordination, collaboration, communication problem you guys at Ascend have to solve. And if you think there has been some kind of a quality of life hotline, that would be great to publicize and to let us all be much more aware of. I'm glad to hear that you're going to address the third-party delivery. I know that one neighbor who happened to call me while I was in my car today saying that, you know, there's a guy here, he's smoking pot. And I said, why don't you go chat with him? And he did. And the fellow was defiant, but not rude, while parked in the wrong direction on the road, smoking marijuana in his car, idling on the sidewalk. So I hear that you hear that this is a problem to deal with. I'd like you to also address, you know, again, the planting maintenance and to just have communication with the people who are in that store, managing it and running it every day. I don't blame them. They were very open and helpful to me. I went in just to find out what they were thinking and who was going to be speaking tonight. They had no idea what was going on tonight. So people in that store don't know what was happening. I appreciate Councilor Laredo's motion. Happy to let him do that over me. I will probably support it because I think there's a lot of work to be done here. And now I would love to hear from Matt McKenna Love for you to introduce us to the local people. Like we don't really care about all the other Ascend stores you have in other cities and towns and states. We care about this one that's in our city. So thank you.
Hi, Councilwoman. My name is Matt McKenna. It's nice to meet you all, and I wish this was under better circumstances. But yes, I would like to echo what Mike said. We do definitely want to have this working group. Like Mike said, this is kind of the first time that I've heard about a lot of these issues, and I'm especially appalled, especially about things like public urination. That's completely unacceptable. As soon as I step off this call, I will be reaching out both to the direct GM and the regional regional retail director. So I will do all the things that in my power to address those immediately. And I do apologize that you guys have been dealing with this.
We appreciate that. Councilor Markowitz, if you agree with deny or hold, just say so, because we know where this is going and we can put an
Well,
end
you
to
know,
this.
I was hoping Councilor Laredo would cut the whole thing off at the start, but since I had to listen to everything else, I want my 2 sentences
Go ahead.
here. I'm very disappointed by this. I have no confidence in anything I've heard here. This is a classic case of an out of sight company not being a good neighbor, not respecting the neighborhood. And beyond voting to deny this, I'm going to call the chief tomorrow and see if we can't get a cruiser parked out there periodically to do this. I'm just disgusted by what I've heard. Thank you.
Appreciate those comments. Mr. Ross, would you like to request withdraw without prejudice and bring this up after the turn of the year, after you deal with these problems, instead of a denial?
I would. And I think that we've done it before with other applicants, which had some pretty hairy problems that this committee had heard, maybe similar. And I think we got those into a better place. I think we can do it again. I know this company, it's one of the oldest companies. It started in Boston. They are Massachusetts-based people. I think we can fix this. If I knew any of this before a couple hours ago, we would have been able to get ahead of it. That right there it's not on the neighbors. It's something that we should be available. We should know who we're working with. So we're going to do some immediate outreach, figure out how we can get on the same page with our immediate community, and come back.
Okay. Send a letter to the clerk or planning tomorrow, formally, just a sentence or two, withdraw, okay, without prejudice, and we'll hope you come back and we'll hear from the neighborhood and you'll right the ship here. And I do understand, if you didn't hear about it today, I understand where you're coming from, but the problems are real, they exist, and let's fix it, okay?
Agreed.
Mr. Chair, procedural, if he's going to withdraw, I think we need to at least hold the item till we get the formal request to withdraw.
That's what I was going to do next. Thank you, Councilor Laredo. Take a motion from Councilor Laredo to hold the item. Do we need a roll call or just, no, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is held. Thank you very much. I think this was a very useful exercise for all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Last 2 items of the night will be taken up together, 355-22 and 355-22 and 356-22. Seltzer's Garden LLC, request to rezone 2 parcels to BU4 and request to construct elderly housing with services at 11 Florence and 318 Boylston Street. Planning, please.
Yes, let me just share my screen. This is petition 356-22 to construct elderly housing with services at 11 Florence Street and 318 Boylston Street, and petition 355-22 to rezone 11 Florence Street from MR1 to BU4 and to rezone 318 Boylston Street from BU2 to BU4. The project requires special permit relief to the use. The size of the project over 20,000 square feet, 5 stories, a retaining wall greater than 4 feet in height within a setback, parking within a front setback, and to waive the lighting requirements and to allow a freestanding sign. This special permit was initially filed in 2021 and then again in 2022 with revisions. The Land Use Committee has held several meetings on this petition, most recently on September 19th. There have been several modifications to the project, including pedestrian improvements at Florence Street and Boylston Street intersection. The petitioner has also taken time since the September meeting, to meet with neighbors and made some adjustments to the project plan as a result of that meeting, including adding additional fencing and landscaping to screen the building from abutters, as well as reducing the hours of construction on Saturdays. So the criteria to consider when reviewing this request, the council should consider whether the site is an appropriate location for the elderly housing facility, with more than 20,000 square feet in gross floor area, 5 stories, a freestanding sign, and a wall greater than 4 feet within a setback. And the proposed facility will not adversely affect the neighborhood. There will not be a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, and access to the site is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. There are a number of other criteria. The first criteria listed here is for sustainability when a project is over 20,000 square feet. The next 3 special permit criteria relate to items and signage. So just to reorient everyone, this is an aerial map showing the 2 parcels on Florence Street. The one on Florence Street and is outlined in blue, and the one on Boylston Street is outlined in green. These parcels are just south of Boylston Street on Route 9. There is an MBTA bus that goes to and from Boston, with a bus stop located adjacent to the site on Boylston Street. As part of this petition, they are also seeking a rezoning of the 2 parcels to BU4. And as of right under BU4, there's a variety of uses that are allowed by special permit. The elder housing with facility is allowed, and up to 96 feet is allowed, and 8 stories. The proposed project is 60 feet and 5 stories. And just showing the proposed site plan as a refresher on the main features of the project. The site will have 3 points of access. There is 1 point of access on Route 9 that accesses the employee parking lot, 10-stall parking lot. And then the main entrances to the facility are on Florence Street, and the facility is approximately 87,000 square feet. It will be 60 feet in height. The petitioner is proposing to demolish the existing structures, which house nurseries and greenhouses on the property to build the facility. And one of the recent additions, or this is the change since our last meeting, is the addition of fencing along the property line, particularly on the southern portion of the site. And that is the site that is nearest to the Tanglewood Road abutters. They are proposing an 8-foot high fence to screen the new building and adjusting the orientation of the landscaping around the fence to better screen that area. So the updated landscaping, just noting the additional information since the last hearing, is the updated landscape plan to incorporate the fencing and landscaping. There is a change of green building designation from Enterprise Green Communities to Passive House. That still complies with our green building zoning ordinance. So we have, planning has no issue with that change. And then the change of the hours of exterior construction on Saturdays to 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I believe that is all I have for now.
Thank you very much. So now to the petitioner, if you'd like to focus on not the whole project, but what has changed or what you've done since our last meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Catherine Browker Adams, and I'm an attorney with the law firm of Schlesinger and Bookbinder with offices at 1200 Walnut Street in Newton Highlands. I'm just going to get this to full screen. As Ms. Sandoval noted, we had a site visit with, and I should say I'm here on behalf of Sunrise Senior Living, seeking a change of zone and a special permit to operate an elderly housing with services facility at 11 Florence Street and 318 Boylston Street. As Ms. Sandoval noted, we had a site visit with some of our neighbors on Tanglewood Road and Florence Street on October 4th. We spent close to an hour walking the site and discussing the concerns of the neighbors. Following that meeting, we adjourned with a smaller group of neighbors to our offices, where Phil Croskin of Sunrise joined us by Zoom. We spent an additional hour and a half discussing the topics which were outlined in Attorney Bookbinder's letter to the committee dated October 17th, 2023. Specifically, we discussed screening, lighting, stormwater mitigation and drainage, and construction concerns. Since the grade rises sharply from Tanglewood Road backyards up to the development parcel, Sunrise agreed to move its proposed board screening fence to a location along its proposed driveway as shown on this plan in red. Since the grade at the proposed fence location, particularly right around here, is 4 feet above the neighbors' yards, the proposed 8-foot-high fence will actually provide a total of 12 feet of screening from the perspective of the neighbors' yards, blocking their view of the garage and first floor of the building. The fence will run along the rear and side property line, as shown in red on the plan, and all along here it will be set back at least 5 feet so as not to be characterized as a perimeter fence, which comes with a limitation of 6 feet high. It's only as the fence approaches the property line at Florence Street here, shown in green, that it needs to drop to 6 feet. The existing 4-foot-high chain link fence on the mutual property line is shown in blue, and it will remain in place to demarcate the boundary of the site. We also discussed stormwater and drainage. We have our civil engineer, John Stabach, here with us this evening. We will be making, in short, the drainage and much better than it is today, and the petitioner will be held to the city's engineering standards. We did have an opportunity to review the draft council order. We have only one very minor comment, which is we want to be consistent throughout. The change is on the proposed sustainability program to Passive House, which a change we've made to comply with the new stretch code. So there's a condition 25 that should refer to Passive House as opposed to Enterprise Green Communities, which was our original program. So that includes our remarks, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. We will go to the neighborhood now. If you'd like to speak, come up to the microphone and state your name and address.
Hello, good evening. My name is Natasha Penner, and I'm owner of 23 Tanglewood Road. I'm speaking here on behalf of my neighbors. There are a few of us here present in this room. We also asking permission to share the screen.
No.
No,
nope.
All right. In this case, I would refer you to your emails. We have shared the letter from the neighbors listing all the issues and discussions we've been having with Sunrise and the city. We did meet with Sunrise on October the 4th. Few of our neighbors walked the neighborhood, and we're actually very pleased that some of our concerns have been resolved to our satisfaction. However, we still would like to bring to your attention several major concerns we still have. I'm not going to read the letter. You can review it later on, and all of you councilors have it in your mailbox. The first piece I would like to bring again, we do have agreement to put the evergreens and nice looking fence to make the building shielded from our backyards. However, we are still concerned with the noise because it's a large 8-story building with air conditioning and technical entrances right at the back of our properties, pretty much 30 feet from the house. And we would like to make sure that the air conditioners units are shielded and noise is reduced, even though the Sunrise mentioned that is a plan, but we have not seen anything in writing. So we would like to make sure it's been incorporated into the project. Another concern we have is a traffic mitigation. The Boylston Street and Florence Street is pretty dangerous intersection where high-speed cars are turning sharply to the right. There is a crossing there. There is a Lifetime Center there, and we have a lot of parking parked right now instead of Winston, and we probably expect to have the same exactly when the new big building will be constructed. We would like to ask the city to put a permanent ban for idling and parking in front of that place, because that, and also to prevent the Florence Street closures. We have kids in our street. We have 4 different school buses that come every day to take our kids to school. And I'm, as a mom of 3 kids, very concerned how my kids are gonna get there, because the Florence Street may be closed due to major construction. Several years ago, we lived through Lifetime Fitness and Lifetime Center construction. We know how tough it is. We know how many cars from all the construction workers, they're all parked on our street. We also would like to make sure that it doesn't happen in this case. It's going to be a very huge nuisance for us, abutters of this construction. Another thing we are really concerned about, we learned from Sunrise that some of this construction will include exploding and blasting on the premise right next to our houses. And we're really worried that what will happen with the foundation in our neighborhood. So we'd like to make sure that our houses, we have it documented and we have a way to potentially, fix any potential damage, and any potential damage needs to be documented prior to blasting. And
Can you hold on one second?
Yep.
Is there going to be any blasting? No blasting. Not an issue.
Okay.
Not an issue. And if there was blasting, if we found something, we have state laws for blasting that they would have to follow, and some rules with the city. So that would, you would be covered, but I'm hearing from them, there's no blasting. Continue.
All right. Okay. So that it was a confusion. Apologies. And then one more question to the city and to Sunrise. We were asking before in previous meeting to potentially consider entrance to the project, to Sunrise project, and to nursing facility from Route 9 instead of Florence Street. Florence Street is largely residential road. We have really no commercial entrances from Florence Street to really keep it quiet. Even the Wegmans entrance is always blocked. It's not possible to get into the Wegmans parking lot from our street. So I would really ask City and Sunrise to reconsider and put it in writing, potentially to decrease really traffic on our street. And the last piece really, which is of largest concern for us, is flooding. And we also shared before the previous meeting, we shared with City Clerk a number of pictures and videos which show that the street, the area behind our houses on 23, 25 Tanglewood and further on the outside of the Tanglewood Road, as well as on Florence Street, we have a lake there. I mean, the toys were swimming like several, tens of feet away from the backyard. We had a huge lake on the back of 11 Tanglewood Road, where the water was like knee deep, and it was there for hours. And we are really concerned that it's going to get worse. At the end of the 25 Tanglewood Road, there is an easement, there is a city stormwater entrance. And what we understand from Sunrise plans and from the city plans is that the storm water from the building, there are several pipes which are shown on the map, which will be going into the same exactly drain, which was overflown just this summer several times. And it was really, really, really like a lake in the back. We were told potentially that this drain is clogged and it's not really properly maintained. called many times to city, to city office, to city engineers. However, it's still an ongoing issue. We don't want to have the lake in our basements when this property is really constructed. So we really want to ask city to review the plans and to make sure that stormwater issue is resolved and it's not going to get worse once this construction has completed.
Thank you. I completely understand your fears. You are starting, your baseline with what you're living with right now is the baseline. That exists. You don't want this development to make it worse.
That's correct.
It's not up to them to make it better, but if they will listen to their engineer, the city has their own engineers. I've heard claims that they could potentially make it better. Right now, there's no drainage built to keep the water on the Seltzer's property. So because they're doing a development, they're going to have to rise to standards that exceed the state's. That's what we put on them. Mm-hmm. And it could potentially get better. It can't get worse. We don't want that to happen to you. But they will not get a building permit unless our engineering department says that they're going to retain the water on their site, which means you would not have a worse condition. Now, it's not in our purview giving the special permit to sign off on that. That does not happen until the end of the process, and they will not get their permit unless they have an engineering plan that the city signs off on. I've been saying that time and time again to everybody who's been sending me letters from Tanglewood. I can't say it more clearly than that. We can't not give a permit because of the fear of what could happen. We have to rely on our engineering department that they are going to engineer this to not make your situation worse. And hopefully it could get better because there's no engineering on that site right now. That's the best I can say about that.
We are not asking not to give a permit. We are asking to make sure that our situation is mitigated and resolved appropriately from the city in cooperation with Sunrise. So we, the abutters, do not suffer and are not.
And that's the goal of our engineering department, and they will not give them the right to build unless there's a plan in place that keeps the water on their site and not on yours.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, anybody else from the neighborhood, come on up.
Very quickly, sorry. I'm Shirey, I'm at 32 Florence Street. I really appreciate the work that Bookbinder and his fellows have done for us. The only thing that I think hasn't been brought up that I would really be appreciate because I live on Florence Street, if there are 4 parking places zoned right in front of that building, it would just be nice to get rid of those. It would improve the sight lines for people coming on and off Florence Street. If we could just make a parking ban on that side, that would be great. That would be my only other.
The 4 right in front of the building, or the
Yes.
ones that tucked to the right of
The
the building?
4 right in front of the building, on the parking spaces on Florence Street.
On Florence Street.
If we could just not have them, that would be great.
Mr. Bookbinder?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the neighbors had asked about removing those 4 spaces. Actually, we agree with them. Our transportation engineer, Randy Hart, totally agrees. We suggested that to planning. They didn't seem enthusiastic, but we totally agree that those 4 spaces should be removed. It would make the traffic, as you turn off of Route 9 and take the right-hand turn onto Florence Street, it would be a much safer condition. I just also wanted to mention briefly that we're, of course, pushing out that corner, as you saw at the last hearing, which will slow traffic down. I know if there are questions about the rooftop mechanicals, that Mark Moeller, our engineer, is here. And Jonathan Stayback, I'm happy to have him speak, but what he will tell you is, as you said, Mr. Chairman, we are capturing the water on site. That doesn't happen today. We also discovered a problem with that drain, which is, I think, never been cleaned. VHB has been in touch with Mr. Daglian. I think a crew has been out to look at it from the city. We actually think that situation will be better.
Excellent. I'd like to hear from planning why you want to keep those 4 spaces on Florence.
Yeah, we had a meeting with traffic engineering and the Sunrise team, and I believe there was a concern from traffic engineering about removing those spaces to do with, permitting and just availability of parking in general on that street. So I can, we can follow up, but it was just a specific concern that traffic engineering had about removing those spaces.
Yeah, we hear
I don't know if you had anything.
Yeah, we're hearing from the petitioner and from the neighborhood and from me who takes that turn that would probably be the best thing to do. So that is something that we can do ourselves tonight, can we not? We don't need any sign off from anybody else in the city, Ms. Sandoval? If we want to get rid of them?
Are these the spaces on Florence or?
On Florence, he's talking about. On the street in front of the property, there are spaces.
I think that would need to go for traffic council. Is that?
I think it has to go through, but we've
That's why I was
encountered
asking.
this.
That's correct.
We've encountered
Chairman.
it.
That's in the purview of traffic council.
Okay, that's
and
fine.
Mr. Chairman, we have encountered this before, and what the council has done is said they would, be favorable to that, recognizing traffic council has the authority.
That's why I asked the question. I wanted the right language. Thank you. Good teamwork. So I think that's something that we would encourage, and ultimately that would be, it could be anybody who takes that to traffic council to get rid of those 4 spaces. Okay, you can do it together. All right. Thank you very much. Anybody else from the neighborhood wish to make any comments? Come on up, state your name and address. Oh, and by the way, I just want to let everybody know, I'm not an ogre. It is a hard, fast rule that we do not, the petitioner is the only one in planning to share the screen. Because if we did that, we would be here till midnight with everybody making presentations. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. My name is Marissa Flaviano. I live at 29 Tanglewood Road. And since the beginning of this, the introduction of this project.
Can you lean in? I can't hear you.
Is that?
Yes, that's better. Go ahead.
Since the very beginning, I have objected to this project and the criteria that it is way too big for the neighborhood. And as it is, the present plans, their basement level is at our first floor level, and their first floor is at our second floor level at this point. So this building is going to be 6 stories high from our perspective on Tanglewood. It seems like all the renditions, artistic, technical, whatever, never really took into account that Tanglewood Road is it's like 10 feet lower than their plot. So in all the renditions, it seems like they make the building much smaller than it is. I mean, against Atrium, against our neighborhood. I mean, they are not on level with us. And this landscaping project, I was given the response that they are going to level that area where the trees are at least, to make it level with their driveway. And they will construct the fence, so it will be like just covering really the garage door, which is their basement level from our properties. So the concern, our other resident has already voiced their concern about noise and other things. So all in all, it seems like this building is really, as a senior care facility, it's not really going to be part of the community because it's a memory care center. And it seems like with the schools nearby and there's lots of families around, it seems like this is a waste of an opportunity to construct more residential units and not a nursing home facility. So all in all, it seems like it's not the right kind of project. As you have mentioned in the initial criteria for considering this project, this is what we have tried to say from the very beginning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are done with the public. Anybody online from the public before we go to the council? Okay. Any comments, questions from the council at this time? Councilor Downs.
Thank you. I'm inclined to support this if we can deal with the
the noise of the HVAC system. I think the proposal for the street reconfiguration at Florence and Route 9 will help with some of the traffic mitigation. And I think the question of flooding is really serious, but what it sounds like to me is that the city of Newton, as we've been discovering across the city, has not been doing its part in maintaining its stormwater system. I wanted to put a pin in that for my colleagues on public facilities. This is a life and property issue. It's a flood insurance issue for us to start to maintain our stormwater infrastructure properly and to size it properly for the water that's coming, not just the water that FEMA backcasts for us. So I think we really need to deal with our stormwater system and perhaps raise the stormwater fee. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so I support the comments that we just heard from Councillor Downs, and I would like to respond, I think, to this being not a neighborhood use. As someone who's had to put 3 parents into assisted living, it weighed heavily in my mind as to the place where we found locations for them to be. 2 were not here, but in DC. And, I worked really hard to find locations that were close to my brothers so that they could easily visit them. So I do think a lot about that. And my father-in-law, who I actually put into assisted living and managed him from his life for many years, having a location that was easy and convenient in Newton for us to get to was really critical and enabled us to be a better part of his life and just simplified all of that. So I do think that's another element to think about. But I do understand we absolutely need more housing. I'm a huge fan of building more housing, but we need housing. This is housing, and it's housing for a particular need, particular point in people's lives, and I just don't want to lose sight of that. I am favorable on this item. I appreciate all the work that's been done to improve the safety at the intersection of Route 9 and Florence. That's not an easy intersection. And frequently I'm actually on my bike on Florence. I cross at Langley Road. And if you go really fast, the pedestrian light, you can get across Route 9 and down Florence before the traffic picks up again. So anyway, I appreciate that work, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a good project. It's a good use of space here to put some senior housing right here on Route 9. One of the people who spoke, I think it was the first person who spoke, was talking about cars idling out front or maybe nearby. Do you know what she was talking about, Chair?
Cars idling, maybe potentially in front of the property. That would just be across the street from the old atrium. I don't know what that would.
I was talking about preventing cars from idling during construction when they would arrive to the project.
During construction, yep. I think I remember. That is something that we can impress upon the petitioner to make sure that doesn't happen. Also, it would be very rare, back me up if I'm talking out of turn, that they would shut down Florence. This is a large piece of land, and most of the construction equipment will be on site, potentially during the end at the front of the building. Sometimes there's a big piece of equipment that has to move a girder or something. But would you say, Mr. Bookbinder, that Florence Street isn't going to be shut down that often?
Very rare, and if so, for a very brief moment in time.
Most of it would be on site. Okay. I mean, we can't see the future, and we can't be there to police every minute, but we can impress upon the petitioner that we would like not to be burning fossil fuels unnecessarily.
Chair, perhaps we could. I don't know if it's possible, but when we get there when we're drafting the council order, potentially if we could put in a condition about cars idling off-site, construction vehicles idling off-site.
Can be part of the, construction management plan. It's, it's something we can put in there, absolutely.
Yeah.
A question about the AC units. They are on top of the building, not down by the fences?
I'm going to ask Mark Moeller, who's the project architect. Mark, could you weigh in on this issue?
Yes, I'd be happy to. My name is Mark Moeller. I'm with JSA Design. While the specific mechanical units have not been designed yet in detail, I can tell you what we anticipate, and you can see it very readily in the Sunrise project that was done on Washington Street a few years ago. But we anticipate that there will be rooftop mechanical equipment, likely 3 different units that will be on top of the uppermost roof. And I'll remind everyone that our perimeter of our building does utilize a parapet. So in other words, the rooftop itself will be set below the outer edge that one would see when you're looking up at the facade of the building. The benefit of that is that that acts as a bit of a screen, if you will, both visually and to some extent acoustically for any rooftop mounted equipment. Once the specific equipment is designed by mechanical engineers, once we start design in earnest, we will be able to have a very, very specific decibel reading. And there's ways to mitigate any sound once we know exactly what it will be. There's ways to further shield it with buffers and so forth. So I'm sure we'll be able to present very detailed information to the city engineers and to make sure that we're in full compliance and are not creating any kind of nuisance to the neighbors.
Thank you very much.
Also,
Councilor Lucas, you're done? Great. Councilor Laredo?
Thank you, Mr. Moeller. I appreciate your assurances. That's very good to hear. Ms. Wewell, I would ask that in the council order, we make it quite clear that the all of the mechanicals are going to be on the roof, that they're going to be screened, that they're going to take appropriate measures to do what Mr. Moeller said they plan to do. But I want that in the order so there's no ambiguity. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bowman, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes, just one last question. I forgot to ask about the sidewalks, especially, I guess, at the perimeter, but especially on Route 9. I assume at the very minimum, those sidewalks would all be replaced because they're in quite bad shape. Is there any change in geometry of the sidewalks on Route 9, or I assume maybe the curb cut is changing?
Mr. Bookbinder?
Or the curb cut's going away?
Yeah, Councilor Bonin, it was my expectation that we would in fact redo the sidewalks abutting the premises, including the parking area on Route 9. Thank you. And then turning around the corner. Catherine, is this you? Oh, do you have a cursor to just take us from the park? And then, yes, and then going around the corner. Thank you. And out until the farther edge of the property boundary. That would be our intent, and that certainly can be in the council order.
Thank you.
Yes, it would be great because they're not in good shape. I appreciate that.
Okay. Seeing no other hands, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to
motion to close the public
hearing. Motion to close. That's right. Motion to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The public hearing is closed. We have a motion to approve by Councilor Bowman. Can we take a look at a council order?
Yes, hold on a second.
Do we have 2 separate council orders for the
Yeah, I was just going to
rezone?
say, I think Elisa is pulling up the special permit council order, but we will also review the rezoning order.
Correct.
Can you see this?
Yes.
Is this big enough? Okay.
Yes, we can.
So I will not read everything on this, but just kind of go through the main points, really.
That's excellent.
Number 1, 2, 3, 4, those are just, the typical findings that we have, standard condition findings. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Feel free to skim those.
Yep.
Pat, for number 5, we ought to say including all of the following. If that's if we're doing
okay.
all of those. If we're doing all of those.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Including all of the following.
You can simply say including that. You don't need all of, just simply say including the following. And you need it between B and C, you need an and. Fossil fuels, semicolon, and C. Sorry, that's what I do all day long.
Yeah, when it's site plans, it's Kelly. When it's legal work, it's Laredo.
When it's real estate knowledge, it's Lipoff. Is that right?
There you go.
All right. We each bring our skill sets.
I move to the next page.
Yes.
So it's just a standard template. Zoning business use 4. First condition is the plan referencing condition. These are all fairly standard A&R plan, building permit conditions, and the O&M plan for stormwater management. Then we have the standard condition for rodent, pest and rodent activities. Oh, did you want me to stop?
Yes, I just wanted to, is there a place where are the sidewalks that have been promised by the petitioner, the new sidewalks noted on the site plan, or could they be noted on the site plan prior to us voting on this in the full council?
Ms. Newell and Sandoval, whatever. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Temple.
We can add in a condition on the replacement of the sidewalks. We've done that in the past, but I will also note that under our city ordinance, they're required to replace the sidewalks.
Okay, if they're required, then I'm
good
fine. Thank you.
And Councilor Bowman, I'm going to say this to you and everybody else who is on Zoom. When we go over a council order, you don't have to raise your hand. I don't want to be calling on people. It's okay if you jump in at any moment to give your opinions, so we can just flow with it, okay?
Could you just, Mr. Chair, could you just scroll up number 5? I want to see the stormwater management.
Sure.
That's our standard language? Is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
Ms. Sandoval?
Yes, it is our standard language.
Okay.
Okay.
It also requires a construction management plan, and this is our standard language as well.
Would it be appropriate here to put some reference into non-idling construction equipment on site? Can we put
Yes,
some
Chair.
of that?
Let me give a little thought as to what that language should look like. I'm not sure if that's something we've ever done in the past, but we will add something in.
Excellent, thank you.
Well, we certainly have had petitions where we have required the developer to have a parking plan for construction vehicles which could just be reviewed with the planning department, and that could be an element of that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. The parking plan would go to ISD as part of the CMP.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so this number 8 does note the change of exterior construction on Saturdays from 8 to 4 p.m. 9, 10. Oh, so 10 is a little bit of a change from the previous because the petitioner has agreed to provide 20% EV charging stations. So they increased it from 10% from before.
Great.
And I'll just kind of scroll a little bit more. The tree preservation ordinance, police detail, deliveries of construction vehicles. Oops.
I'm sorry, if you go down to 16, does that cover the sidewalk issues that Councilor Bowman was just raising?
This covers the sidewalk issues. It's a conceptual plan, so it may be worth just confirming that that language is there to just, totally verify.
I think, Councilor Rado, I think that condition does not address Councilor Bowman's point, but I think we should put that language in somewhere.
Why not put in right somewhere in here to address the point?
It could, sure, but it's
Here's another condition.
Yeah, I would recommend it as a separate condition because these are a specific set of offsite improvements.
So, Mr. Temple, you'll make sure you'll take care of that. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Continue.
And you'll put a separate condition here too about the all the mechanicals being on the roof like we talked about earlier?
Yep, I have that on my list. Mechanicals located on the roof and screened.
Okay, thank you.
We'll put that in somewhere.
So also with the mechanicals, I think there was a pledge to, after they were installed, to make efforts to mitigate noise if they were overly loud. I'm not sure exactly how to word that, but.
I think what we said, Councilor, to be clear, we will test to make sure that it's within the parameters of the noise ordinance.
Perfect.
The decibels, and if it is not, they'll do extra to make it within the code. Okay?
So I want to point out, this is Katie Wewell. This is the sort of original version of the vibration control condition. I think the petitioners previously agreed to this wording, so we did not see any reason to change it, and also based on the scale of the project. However, if this were a newer filing, you would probably see a different version of this.
What would the version be?
It would be this is the original version. The next version would be the one that the committee approved for the 3 projects that came back and amended it. That is less stringent.
So,
and also, sorry, if I can just jump in, the new condition is actually now being proposed as an ordinance that was discussed at Programs and Services last week and will be coming back on November 8th. And the intent is that would simply replace any special permit condition because the ordinance will apply to by right and special permit projects.
So there's no harm in leaving it as is because you anticipate Programs and Services and the full council will vote out a different one, right?
So
right, but I think this language we're seeing on the screen now is much more stringent and will still apply for this particular project, even
after the
ordinance.
Does the petitioner have an issue with this language?
Yeah, we're actually okay with this, Councilor, and to be candid, we've referenced an agreement with the folks at the residences, and this is consistent with what we've assured them, so we're okay with the higher standard.
Fine. Okay, so can we put in there that, to be clear, that we don't want what goes through Programs and Services superseding this?
Yes, we can add in language. I mean, I think this would certainly comply with what the ordinance will look like, but we can make that clear.
So there's no ambiguity about any, if somebody 5 years from now looking at this, we're just going to make clear what our intent is. That's all.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, standard vibration.
Yep, just scrolling past standard vibration study. So 18 and 19 have to do with the mitigation payments. 18 is the infiltration and inflow payments, and just noting those. And then 19 is the aggregate amount of the payments for off-site transportation, pedestrian, or safety improvements for the project.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm going to ask Jonah this question. Jonah, I forget, I know we had looked at this previously, but I believe that we get a credit, the cost of those intersection improvements, I believe, at Route 9 in Florence, aren't they credited against that cash payment, if my memory is correct?
I don't think we've talked about that for this project. That's not necessarily the default. I know we've had similar conversations in the 40B realm.
No, we did.
Oh,
it
we
was
did.
reflected in the offsite improvement condition earlier. If Elisa, I don't know if you want to scroll.
Yeah, I will go. I'll scroll to that. Sorry. Yeah, we did discuss this with and it seemed like that would make sense because it had to do with offsite improvements.
I think it's been a while since we discussed it, so it's but it was previously agreed upon. So it's this one. No, Elisa, you're just there. D 16D.
Okay. Yes. So the where it talks about that is the final costs of the improvements shall be credited toward the payment reference in condition 19 herein, subject to the review and approval of the Commissioner of Public Works. And in the event that MassDOT does not approve the proposed improvements, the petitioner shall no longer be obligated to construct the improvements, and there will not be any reduction of or credit toward the payments referenced in condition 19. So we just wanted to make sure that it was, wasn't going to affect the payment in condition 19 if for some reason, if the improvements weren't able to go forward. So then we also have the TDM plan, which the council has seen already. No changes to this really, except for the 20% of electric vehicle charging stations. And then we have the inclusionary housing ordinance referencing the 6 affordable housing beds. The passive house rating system. And then the different criteria for that based on issuance of a building permit. And these are fairly standard submittals for the building permit.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can just jump in one last time, the one condition we have not discussed that was previously talked about in the committee discussion was a condition requiring the petitioner to file a petition with traffic council to remove those parking spaces. Is that still something the committee would like us to include?
I think so.
So that sums up the rest of the conditions for this order.
Do we have snow removal in here?
Let's see.
We can add it. It would normally be, I think, at the very end.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can add that.
Yep.
Are you going to be undergrounding utilities from the street?
Yeah, yes, from the street going into the site. We won't necessarily be taking poles down on the street, but everything going into the site will be underground.
So the pole is on Route 9 and then from there you underground, correct?
Yes. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Hold on one second.
Excuse me, Councilor Rado. John, come on up. I'm going to ask our engineer to answer that, to be clear.
The overhead distribution lines on Florence Street will remain. My name is John Staubach with VHB.
Get a little closer. Thanks.
My name is John Staubach with VHB. I'm the civil engineer on the project. The overhead utility distribution on Florence Street will remain. We will have all underground connections to the building, but the existing overhead on the street will remain.
No, I think I understand that,
Yes.
and I think that's the intent. The poles remain on the street, but there's no above ground wiring from the street to the site, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
And the services come from Florence Street, not from Route 9.
Got it. Okay, I appreciate the clarification. So we're
Thank
not
you.
getting rid of any poles, but we're not putting any more wires in the air.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Okay. All right, we're at the end of this council order for the special permit. We have a motion to approve. Please call the roll. Hold on one second. Yep.
Oh,
I'm sorry, as a matter of procedure, I think you probably want to address the zone change first and then the special permit.
Okay, well, you know what? All right, we'll go over.
No, Chair, it doesn't matter the order in committee. At full council, it makes a difference, but we're just making
okay.
It doesn't matter?
I defer to Mr. Temple.
Okay, the attorneys
All
got
these
together and
lawyers
we.
supporting you, Rick. It's amazing. It's just, and I don't think you get a bill for that.
What'd you say?
Said all these lawyers supporting you, and you're not even getting a bill for it.
It's kind of nice. Yeah, free.
Don't hold your breath, you might.
Listen, Councilor Markowitz, while you pipe in, I do have to say, every time I hear standard vibration, I think of that band that you were in that did disco music back in the 70s. Weren't you in standard vibration back in the 70s? I think you are.
No. You must
Okay.
be confusing me with the other council member who was
Please,
in coffee
please
there.
call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Counselor Bowman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg, Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Laredo,
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Now can we take a look at a council order for the rezoning?
yes. Just hold on a sec. Okay, this is the rezoning order, and it's fairly short. It's mostly technical GIS language, but I will go ahead and scroll through it. So
Okay.
it talks about the zone change areas on 11 Florence Street and 318 Boylston Street, the lot references, and what they're currently zoned and what they're going to be zoned to business use for, and the coordinates for those. And we did have our GIS coordinator just review to confirm that the coordinates were correct, and they are, so.
Great. That would be really impressive if anybody had edits to those. All right. Pretty straightforward for the zone change. Please call the roll.
Counselor Bowman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg, Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Laredo,
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Good luck with the project. And that ends our business. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, all.